it'll help if I unmute. So welcome everybody. Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is, of course, an International Diabetes Federation session on the power of movement to tackle diabetes. I think with the Olympics ceremonies kicking off tonight, right? So it's a good time to actually bring up this conversation. And there's always a good time to talk about movement, exercise, activity, and diabetes in general. My name's Gavin. I'm going to be chairing this session. I live with type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed as an 8-year-old, and here I am, looking nice and smiley there. I'm from the UK. I founded a charity that is called Diathlete, as well as its subsidiary called the League of Diabetes, that is active to support people, particularly around movement and the areas of how that can come into play around talking among peers with diabetes and being more engaging with education. So yeah, that's my background. I've also run a couple of marathons in my life. I played a little bit of semi-pro football when I was a bit younger, and now I like to do more talking, probably more activity. But I do keep myself fit with some walks and activity, and I think that's an important thing we're going to discuss with an exciting panel today. So welcome from me in the UK to everybody around the world. And just a bit of housekeeping with this panel that we have. So a welcome from the IDF. So this webinar is being recorded, and that means, of course, that you're on Zoom. There will be subtitles generated, particularly if you have trouble with my accent. Maybe Zoom will have trouble as well. I'm from Southeast London, so even though I speak English, it's not always the best English. So that's good. You might have some options for those subtitles, but they might not be 100% accurate. But you'll get the gist, I'm sure, and that will translate into your languages. The recording that we're having in process now, and the slides that you're going to be seeing, and all the feedback and questionnaires, they will be sent on to everybody here who has registered in the next few days. So you will be receiving that by an email. And the participants who attend at least 80% of these events, it said that Liv will receive an attendance certificate. So only if you complete the feedback questionnaire. That's important. We're always looking for feedback. That's how we grow. That's how we improve things. So it's good to give that feedback on board on what you're hearing, what you're doing here with the International Diabetes Federation. And if you haven't received that, if you check those spam folders, then do get in touch with Bruno or Bia or the team at the IDF by the 15th of August. And use the question and answers function to post your questions to all the speakers and panelists throughout. And we will try to keep an eye on those questions and include them in this panel as and when we get a moment. So welcome everybody. I hope you enjoy this session. But firstly, before we go to panelists, it's quite important to share about the good projects that the International Diabetes Federation are up to. You can see Bruno's on screen to share about the Kids in Diabetes Schools project. So here's Bruno, welcome.
Thank you very much, Gav. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to promote about the overall health and well-being of the community living with diabetes, but also to foster healthy habits to support those in risk of developing type 2. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So for those who are not familiar with the Kids and Diabetes in Schools program, it's a program or initiative that it was developed back in the days in a partnership between IDF and the International Society for Pediatric and Adolescents in Diabetes, with the support of an educational grant from Sanofi. The KiDS mission is to bring diabetes awareness and understanding into schools to support the well-being of students living with diabetes and encourage habits that can help preventing type 2. The resources are available in over 20 languages, and for the past couple of years have been downloaded over 20,000 times. So there are two main models of implementation of the KiDS program. One which we call ad hoc sessions, which pretty much is anyone interested on bringing diabetes education education and awareness into schools can download the resources and conduct their own sessions. But then also we have the structure model, which is organized by different stakeholders, so policymakers, local NGOs, and other partners. And this has been implemented in over 21 countries, included India and Brazil, where the country was first piloted. So far, we had an outreach of almost 2.5 thousand schools around the globe, and impacting directly almost 500,000 children and over 20,000 teachers. So if we could go to the next slide. These are some of the main resources that we have for kids. So the information pack, the nutritional guide, the NutriQuiz, and the advocacy toolkit. Each of them can be downloaded freely at the kids website, and my colleague Daisy is also posting in the chat of this meeting the link, so you can get to there. So you might be questioning, like, what is the link, or what is the relation of the power of movement to tackle diabetes and with the Kids in Diabetes School program? So recently we conducted a survey with the IDF members associations, and they reported that almost all the countries that participated in the survey had policies to ensure physical activity in schools. However, on the other note, like less than 20% of the IDF members reported the existence of any type of diabetes education initiatives in their country. So, as Gavin mentioned, on the occasion of the Olympics and Paralympic Games that will start officially tomorrow with the opening ceremony happening in Paris, and also with the findings from this survey, we understand how relevant and how important it is for IDF to bring this topic, and how we can ensure that children with diabetes are included within the school environment by being allowed and being supported on practicing physical activity, but also how we can use movement to prevent the new cases of type 2 diabetes. So if we could go to the next slide. So you might be like asking, okay, now that I'm aware of the Kids and Diabetes in Schools activities, how I can participate, how I can support. So these are a couple of ideas from our side. We suggest you to contact the IDF member in your country to learn what are the national and local diabetes educations, prevention and care campaigns, and how you can be involved with those. Also, to engage with local authorities responsible for schools to advocate for the kids program to be implemented at the country level. Also, you can download the resources and run a kids session by yourself. So we have all of this explained in our website. Also, if you have like the experience of living diabetes in the personal, professional level, you can share your testimonial on living with diabetes in the school environment by sharing your testimonial in the survey that we have in the kids website. And last but not least, you can also download the kids advocacy toolkit to have more ideas how to promote the inclusion of diabetes education in the school curricula. So with this, I pass back to Gavin. So we can hear from the amazing panelists that we have for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno. And yeah, very important work going on there. I'm sure many of us relate so much to that and can make a big difference together. So do get in touch about that kids program. And so yeah, here I want to invite the panelists to quickly share an introduction to themselves from around the world. So we can go in this particular order as presented: Edgar, Elisaveta, Yotsana, and then Rob. So yeah, Edgar first. Would you like to say a hello and where you're from and a little bit about you?
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Edgar Garcia. I was born and live in Mexico City. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2006. I have been living with diabetes for 80 years. I practice most of common sport, but since I was diagnosed with diabetes, I started running and fell in love with it. Sorry.
Great. Thank you, Edgar.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep,
yes.
so, there you go. We can see you now.
Okay.
Yes. Hola.
Okay. Sorry for all. I can start again. I am Edgar Garcia. I was born and live in Mexico City. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in June 2006. I have been living with diabetes for 80 years. I practice most of common sports, but since I was diagnosed with diabetes, I started running and fell in love with it. I became a marathoner at 30 years old. I am currently 45 years old. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you on this day. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias, Edgar. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Elisaveta, and I'm from Serbia. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 24 years ago, so it was in the year 2000. The main sporting activity that I do, that I did, was that I was a semi-professional swimmer. However, I still try and do as much sports as I can. However, not that much swimming as I used to. And yeah, that would be the introductory for me.
Thank you. And Jotsana.
Hi everyone, hello, namaste. My name is Jyotsna Rangeen and I'm from India. And I've been living with type 1 diabetes from the past 9 years now. And talking about my love with respect to physical activity is for dancing. I started dancing when I was as young as 3 years old. And I just watched Madhuri Dixit on television. And I think a lot of the Indians audience here would know that Madhuri is famous for her Bollywood dancing and her expressions. So she was my inspiration at that time. And I told my mom that I want to grow up and become Madhuri Dixit. And I didn't even know what that meant. But slowly that turned into my love for dancing. And dancing is not just something which I do for passion, but it is also a very important aspect of my fitness journey as well. I'm also a national level basketball player. And I'm also currently pursuing dance movement therapy so that I can help children deal with the emotional aspects of living with type 1 diabetes.
Thank you, Joe. And Rob?
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all from all over the world. My name's Rob. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2005. So I've been living with diabetes for 19 years. And from the very beginning, my favorite sport is basketball. So similar to Joe, I love to put the ball through the hoop. And I was fortunate to go play with diabetes in college and in the professional level all over the world. And you know, today I still enjoy playing basketball and staying fit. Similar to what Gavin said earlier, these days I talk more than I end up working out. But movement is so important to me and such a crucial part of my diabetes management. So thank you guys for having me here today.
Thank you. And it's a great panel there of such diverse different talents and hobbies and interests. And you can see the passion in their eyes when they talk about what they do. So yeah, let's begin with that. We mentioned the Olympics starting as well, so that's a time for global excitement. And I was an Olympic torchbearer in 2012 when it came to London. And in that, before I'd even started running with the Olympic flame, my levels absolutely shot high. And the reason was because there's different factors that come into play. I think that's also an important thing for us to talk about, particularly when it comes into different sports and exercises as well as movement, is that there's an importance to create a plan, but it doesn't always go to plan for different reasons. You know, when you've got thousands of people and TV cameras and you've got a flame you don't want to set yourself a light on whilst you're trying to carry, little things like that are going to create nerves, adrenaline, different factors. And I saw that firsthand before I started running, thinking maybe my levels are going to go low here. Actually, I was shooting up high. So on that note, I'm going to tag in Rob, who we just heard from there, and look at that, particularly where he mentioned coming from a professional athletics background when he was younger. How did you go initially about learning and forming a plan into your diabetes game? Yeah, in general, when it came, did you learn as you went, or did you already kind of have an idea and then develop that the further you got in basketball and in your sports?
That's a great question, Gavin. I really had to learn on my own. My athletic career's peak was about 15 years ago, and there just weren't as many resources available or as many people or events like this sharing their journeys with diabetes who could help me. So I was working with my family and my athletic trainer group in college and in the professional level. And very similar to you, I found that my levels, I could go from a fasting glucose of 80, and I guess for in millimolar, somebody will have to help me with the conversion, but I could even skyrocket up to 400 with no food, or because of the adrenaline and because of the stress. And I found that as my career progressed and I was having success, the stress also increased. So my diabetes management, at my peak athletic career, my diabetes management was probably the worst it ever was. And that was hard for me to balance. And so, when I talk to people today who are athletes who are having hard or having difficult times managing their sugars around competition, I just try to let them know that it's very normal to have, excursions that go high and then immediately come crashing down after your body becomes insulin sensitive again. So it can be very difficult to plan. I think you have to really make sure that you build a plan and that you leave room for change, because as we know with diabetes, there's every day is a little bit different, and there are so many factors. And at the professional level, especially, travel was a large component. So playing a game back-to-back days in different states in the US and flying and getting on a bus were causing an irregular sleep patterns, hydration, and all of those things were very challenging. So if you're out there struggling with that, I definitely did struggle with that in my career, and it's a challenging part of being an athlete with diabetes.
I'm going to tag in Elisaveta on that as well, because you were competing, nationally in the swimming pool as well, and I think that's a particular area where perhaps there does become that extra level of fear factors. Not only is it a case of running, being on a bike, being in a game, but in the pool, where I've often had it over the years, mums and dads in particular asking about their child who has type 1 diabetes, for example. Are they safe? What's going to go on? What about hypos? What was you finding in competition? As Rob said, about there can be a range of levels in sport. Sometimes you're so pumped with adrenaline, sometimes it's the movement, you're going quite high instead of low. What was you finding in the pool whilst competing?
Yeah, so as Rob was talking, this was literally what I was thinking about as well, because there are several points that Rob said that like resonated with me completely. First of all, that there were not that many resources. So I started swimming more than 20 years ago. So it was super hectic for me, and of course for my parents as well. But like regarding competitions and trainings as well, probably swimming can be a bit more difficult, because it's not that easy to just like prick your finger or look at the sensor or like see what's going on. And it's also not that easy to sense if you have a hypo. So for myself, and this is not something that I recommend definitely, I never wanted to feel different from other kids in the pool, which is why even if I felt like I might be getting low, if I was swimming really good, if it was a really good training, I just wanted to continue. And in one point, my arms started going out of control. So I was supposed to be doing freestyle, and instead of just, you know, going straight down, they were like wobbly and all over the place. And I was like, okay, this is the first time that I did this and the last, because my health really can't, you know, be on the back when swimming is in question. But yeah, definitely, for instance, when I had hypos at a competition, it was much easier to swim than if I had hypers. So with hypers, it was really hard to move through the water and to have a certain time that I would usually swim a certain a stroke or something like that. So yeah, diabetes could affect my swimming on a whole different level and on many different levels regarding if my sugar was high or if it was low. So yeah.
And I'm going to ask on that as well. Like, you know, particularly you both answered coming from a little while ago now, where you first started out and you were kind of almost learning from the experience. Do you think that we need more, I guess it's hard to say, representation in the media about it? Perhaps was it that there an athlete out there that really, to the both of you, stood out, that helped you learn little tips or just feel empowered in general to get out there and perform? That's the both Rob and Elisaveta.
I'll go first. Yeah, I think it's crucially important to continue to share your story. And because of the lack of representation, I think for me, I was diagnosed in 2005, and something that I didn't realize at the time that was so important to my journey with diabetes is there was a man who was playing in college basketball in the US, Adam Morrison, who was very public about his diabetes and how he and his family were preparing. So I was able to see someone with diabetes who was competing at the highest level. And so in my mind, I could see that it was possible. And so I think that's really important, to be able to find someone with diabetes who is doing whatever it is that you want to do from a movement or a sport or even a career standpoint, because you can ask yourself, you can believe that it's possible, but when you see someone else with diabetes who's doing it, not only can you see that it's possible, but today, because of social media, you might be able to have a conversation with them and ask them and learn from them. And so for me personally, when I was in college, I was dealing with a very difficult season. I was burnt out from sport. I was burnt out from diabetes. And I read an article in the newspaper about a man who was playing for the Denver Nuggets, whose name is Gary Forbes. And he has type 1 diabetes. And he was just sharing about his diabetes. And I was living in Colorado and I saw that guy and I said, you know what, if he's doing this and sharing his story, maybe I can too. And 15 years later, now Gary and I are close friends. And so you never know if you share your story. If Gary hadn't shared his story, if he hadn't been open about that, I would never have heard that. And it hit me at the right time. So you don't need to be a famous athlete to share your story. Everybody's story has power and can help someone here. You know, there's 500 people here in this room. Each one of you has a story that can help someone else. And so I think that's what I would say in terms of representation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I would like to add that I think that like my side of the story is a lot different from Rob's, because as I was growing up, first of all, I was like the only kid in Serbia who had diabetes and who was swimming competitively, but also I didn't know that many kids who had diabetes like at all, except for those few that I would meet at a hospital. So at the time, you know, advocacy and patient organizations in Serbia weren't as developed as now. So now the situation is a lot different, and you can find athletes with diabetes, even pro athletes, as I would like to mention one. Her name is Yelena, and she's a professional swimmer. But she doesn't do just regular competitive swimming. She does synchro swimming, so that's her sport. But like, yeah, growing up, I really didn't have anyone to look up to. And I was the only kid with diabetes, but I was always open about it. And I think that was really important, because in that way, other kids would learn about diabetes. And even now, if you ask any of my teammates, they would know so much about diabetes only because I was the only kid there, and because they always wanted to, you know, prick my fingers, check my sugar, give me insulin if needed, or go and get glucose tablets or something like that. And even today, or like in the first few years when I stopped swimming, there were a few instances where a few coaches, not just from my team, but from all over Serbia, actually contacted me because they had kids with diabetes, and they were asking, you know, all kinds of questions, all kinds of advice, because it was their first time. So it felt really good to be some kind of a pioneer in that, and to offer knowledge, because people remembered that I was the kid with the diabetes, who was, like, you know, swimming in Serbia. So but right now, there are a lot of athletes in Serbia, and I think that it's really important to talk openly about it, even in the media, or like just amongst each other, because only through this kind of knowledge sharing can other people actually, you know, even better their own diabetes, and, like, you know, their self-regulation and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. And you've become that role model as well, which I think is equal to Rob's point as well. We can become that through sharing our experiences, by learning and sharing about how we get out there and encouraging others. And on that note, I want to bring in Yotsana in India, and your journey with dance. How was dance a route to your own success story? And I think there's maybe a psychological side to that on your journey as well, as much as the physical side of movement. So yeah, Joe, over to you on that one.
Thank you, Kevin, for that question. So to begin, I think dance has been like an incredibly transformative part of my journey with type 1 diabetes. I think beyond just physical benefits, it has been enriching emotionally as well for me as well. Because when I was diagnosed, I was quite overwhelmed. There was a lot of information, stigma, misconceptions, people telling me to hide my condition, to don't do this and that. And I felt quite discouraging and demotivated at that time. And, there were moments when I felt that I won't be able to dance again, or I won't be able to play basketball again. And it was a very, very disturbing point of my life. Only when, I saw my dad battling with cancer, and I saw the passion and dedication in him for basketball. He used to postpone his chemo treatment so that he could go and coach the teammates. And that was such a big inspiration and motivation for me to get back to dance. And I challenged myself that I would start dancing, and I would not let anything stop me from doing what I love. And that's how my journey with dance began. I joined a professional dance company, and we started posting videos on YouTube. And the first video that I posted, I wasn't even sure whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. And I was still in that learning curve of understanding how to navigate my dancing journey with type 1 diabetes. But then that video crossed 10 million views. And that was such a big motivation and happy moment for me that, this is something that I can do, not just for myself, but I can inspire so many people who still have that inhibition, or who still feel restricted because of type 1 diabetes, that they cannot perform or do any sport or physical activity. And I think that has been like a turning point in my life, and how, dancing helped me to kind of reduce the stress, the daily ups and downs that we face with, type 1 diabetes, that we all can relate to. So dancing was one way of like an outlet through which I could channel my emotions, and, through movement and dance. And it helped me to kind of feel lighter and share my emotions through dancing. And I feel that dancing has been an instrumental and a very important part of my life to live a healthier and fulfilling life. And it has really changed the way I see myself. It has boosted my confidence, my personality. And now when I do dance shows, when I do shoots, when I do wedding choreographies, it is just amazing to see how my journey which started from I can't dance anymore to today that, I can do everything I can with type 1 diabetes. And dancing has been a successful part of my journey through it. So yes.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that was such a key word as well you said about boosting your confidence. When you do what you love, you are boosting your confidence, and diabetes is that journey of building confidence through time. For some it's a bit longer, some it's maybe right away even, but I think that moment when you start to click and say, okay, there are things to learn, but I'm doing what I love, and therefore I want to learn a bit more as a result of that, as you were with dancing. That goes such a long way to yeah, that morale towards the day-to-day that we have to do to manage this condition. So yeah, amazing. I'm gonna go to Mexico, and I'm gonna bring in Edgar. You're a marathoner, as you mentioned, Edgar. You're into marathon running. So my curious question to begin is, where would you say that initial empowerment, where you found that fire in you to say, I'm going to now run a marathon? Where did that come from? And what do you believe that shares to the world, to other people, perhaps in Mexico, perhaps all around these 500 people tuning in around the world? What does that say about you and this condition through your marathon running?
It's very interesting. The marathon is a sport very difficult for the body. Your body is suffering fatigue, extremely fatigue. But before a marathon, before running a marathon, taking care of staying in control of my levels with good habits, especially monitoring. The monitoring is essential for practice any sport. During the race, I monitor myself at the beginning, and every 5 or 10 kilometers, and depending of the glucometer reading, I compensate with candies, of a few grams to keep my sugar level between 100 and 150 milligrams per deciliter in my blood. I learned with detect my blood sugar with during the race without I don't stop. I'm running with my pick my finger, test my blood. I don't stop. It's very important for me. No loss a seconds. I am an enthusiastic of running. Nobody win any race in I participate, but in all my race I am very happy. The end at the race is very important, monitoring, because I need to eat something, is very important. The monitoring is the key after, during, and sorry, and before any activity of sports.
And I was curious there with because you said you didn't want to stop, you carried on going, and you were testing your levels during the marathon. I used to do that as well when I first started. One thing that helped me, the test strips rattling in my pocket, it could be annoying, but I kind of had a sense it was a bit of a rhythm, and it kind of psychologically helped me just to keep my steps going, because I felt like it was almost a kind of dance routine. As Josanna would be happy to hear that. I'm English, so obviously my hips do not move very well at all, but naturally, but but we have to get the oil out here and a cup of tea. But whilst I was running, that those test strips rattling could be very annoying, but I actually, in the end, I felt like it was kind of like a crowd in a stadium that was cheering me on. That's kind of what was going through my head when I ran. Did you have a way when you were running and testing your blood sugars to keep motivated, to keep going, to yeah, I don't know, to edge yourself along, to go that full distance, to skip the wall where you get that physical barrier, and to reach that finish line? How was that for you? What did you find?
Yes. I think all people, I think the limits are set by one. We all have a different level of competitiveness, and sport gives you just that. Living with diabetes requires many actions to be in control. Sport makes you feel proud. Winning at a tournament, crossing a finish lines, gives you the satisfaction of knowing that everything is going to be fine. When I run, let me something personal. When I did diagnostics, I promised my family and friends that I am going to take care of myself, and not matter how long it takes, I will always arrive in every competition and arrive well. So my phrase when I compete is "see you or always in the goal line." For me, is the promise that I have to my family and friends. Is my promise with you. You are my new friends. I take care all the time because I want to feel good. And live with the body is that is enjoy the life, the life for us and everyone have very situations, happy, whatever. Sorry if me my answer is not correctly to your questions. I'm very conmovido with stay here with us.
Yeah, you're right though. You succeed through love and through feeling that encouragement in what you do and how you go about it. So yeah, that's how we reach our finish lines. That's how you've done it, and yes, that's really admirable. I'm gonna bring Rob back in here because you mentioned at the start, Rob, that 15 years ago or so was when you were competing, and I guess we've seen, particularly perhaps in not around the world, but we have seen new technologies enter the market. I guess throughout time there has been changes to how we treat or manage diabetes. Not only that, but also the information perhaps today, of course, is more out there than it was yesterday and it was several years ago. And that perhaps changes our thinking. And I think we have to adapt with what's in front of us and what we do have access to and to use. And that's not always an easy step to take. But for you as an athlete 15 years ago, what would you do differently in the present day if you were, again, your young self starting out, in that professional environment?
Really well said, Gavin. I think, I've been reading in the chat, in the discussion, everyone is from so many different places and has so many different backgrounds. And there are real barriers in some places to the type of technology that we have in the West. For example, continuous glucose monitors. You were talking about test strips, you and Edgar, and the rhythm of your test strips in your pocket. And I know for many people throughout the world, test strips are a luxury that they don't even get access to on a regular basis. So I think I want to focus on like accessibility to in my recommendation and my answer to you. And the first way I think is to surround yourself with a team. Sports is whether it's an individual sport like marathon or a team sport like basketball or swimming as an individual or in a group. It's important to have a team. Nobody makes it alone, and I think that's an important part of diabetes. So whether that's your care team from a physician standpoint, your doctor or your endocrinologist or your nurse practitioner, or it's your family and friends or a friend with diabetes. There's a lot of people here in this chat from the same places. I hope you guys are able to connect with each other and share, because that's something I would do differently. I tried to solve a lot of my diabetes problems on my own. And if I had someone with diabetes that I could connect with and I allowed into my life, I could maybe have a better perspective or learn from someone else's experience. And I think that's something that I would very much do differently today. The next thing I would do is I would get a continuous glucose monitor, because 15 years ago it was very difficult managing glucose with manual finger sticks. But something else I want to talk about is that today's session is the power of movement to tackle diabetes, and a lot of us are high level athletes, professional athletes, and only a very small percentage of people make the highest levels of sport. But movement and the impact of movement and physical activity is impactful for everyone. And so I'm particularly inspired by Edgar's story of his promise to himself and his family of like how he will continue to push forward. But that starts with a single step. In order to finish, you have to start. And I think if you're in the chat or you're in this webinar and you're thinking like, well, these athletes are at a level that I can't get to, and that may work for them, but that's not going to work for me. Things as simple as going for a walk or going for a dance, like Joe and her content she shares, like it's a group of people dancing and having a good time together. That movement is still impactful for your diabetes. And any kind of like getting started, you don't have to be crossing the finish line in first place for your movement to matter. You don't have to be on a national team. You don't have to be on a professional team. You can simply start your, if you're having a hyperglycemia and you walk around the block and your sugars come down as a result, like that movement really counts. And you can build that. And I think each one of our panelists would attest to the power of consistency. None of us got to the level that we got to on the first day. It was hundreds of days compounded together. And that's the power of compound interest. When you continue to show up, you continue to go forward, even when you don't want to, even when it's uncomfortable, because diabetes is uncomfortable and it never goes away for the most part, type 1 especially. But, for many people, diabetes management is a part of our life forever, and you have to continue to show up and you have to continue to put the effort in. And it doesn't always look pretty. And I'm sure that all of us can think right now of workouts or competitions where we didn't do very good. But it's not those failures that define us. It's the next day. Do we get back up and try again? And I think that's how, something I would do differently. Just to get back to your question, I wouldn't judge my days where I didn't do very well as harshly. I would remember that I'm just a person. I'm a human dealing with diabetes. Diabetes is hard, but we can handle it if we just don't give up. And that's what I would approach differently today compared to 15 years ago.
Very good points there, Rob. And on that power of movement, frame of mind of things. Elizaveta, you mentioned obviously you started out swimming, but on that topic really, I guess continuing activity, even when you're not as active as you once was, as perhaps all of us certainly for speaking myself, I'm certainly in that stage as well. keeping those keeping a habit of it, keeping a hobby, or trying something new even after swimming. What comes after that? How have you gone about trying to keep fit, active outside of your normal? And with that, have you seen the benefits, perhaps on a blood sugar level perspective, perhaps in your own approach to diabetes management? What have you found through maintaining or finding new ways of engaging in types of movement?
Yeah, so since when I was swimming, we were of course having those kind of dry land types of exercises. So this was kind of a go-to for me to like just continue doing some of those dry land exercises, or like, let's put it in normal language, just doing like normal body weight training. So nothing with weights, nothing too complex, but just normal exercises that anyone can do at their home. They don't even need, like a professional mat or something. You could just also be a towel. So those are the types of exercises that people can do on a daily basis, where I usually do body weight exercises for like 30 minutes a day, which is something that I can always achieve. Like, of course, if I organize myself well enough, I can always find 30 minutes every day in order to just do those kinds of basic exercises and just like, keep my body physically active. And so for me, it's not that much of diabetes management. For me, it's more about my mental health. So I always feel so much better when I'm doing any kinds of exercises, whether it's going for a swim at an actual pool or, in summer, it's much easier. And whether it's just like, 30 minutes of exercise at home, it mostly helps me balance those kinds of like mental parts of my life. But also the mental parts do have an impact on diabetes, because we know how much stress can change our blood sugar levels and how much it can impact them. So for me, that mental aspect is a way to just like try and continue to like regulate my blood sugars and to like keep them in check.
Brilliant. Yeah. And you touched upon again like that psychological side as well, as linking in common with Jotsana. And I just see a comment as you were saying that from Pavel on the side, saying that positive mindset is key as well. And I think that's also, we feel good, then we're going to be more active, and then we're going to, in time, you'd assume, start seeing those benefits as well to our health and well-being coming together as one. So that is so important. And yeah, Pavel was saying a positive mindset is key. And yeah, I really feel that. I really feel that comes from exploring something new, perhaps, and seeing what you like and perhaps what you don't like, and then going on those other options, but you don't know unless you try. And of course, those passions that we have from a young age, exploring those again, that is obviously also going to have that impact where we want to exercise more as a result of enjoying what we do. Has such a powerful impact. I'm going to look directly into that impact here with these next questions. I'm going to go to Jotsana and Edgar. So obviously two different sporting activities, two different ways of movement. But Jotsana, for you with dance, before, during, and after, I guess it's a hard question, because dance, I mean, sport in general can be so different. When I've done a 5K park run and when I've gone for a jog around the block, it depends how competitive I'm feeling on that park run. If I want to try and take that guy on because he's trying to get ahead of me and I don't want him to, then I'm going to probably try and burn more energy. Whereas if I'm going for a casual jog just out there, walking a dog or something like that, then there's less adrenaline going around. So you're probably going to see different impacts. With dance, I think we're seeing more extremes because there's so many different varied types of dance. But I guess, could you summarize a little bit about your approach before, during, and after on a typical basis of what you find perhaps with diabetes management, what you're finding with levels and results, and perhaps how they differ is also maybe an important thing to touch upon when you see one type of dance versus another.
Certainly. So I think I won't have like a standard answer for this, because it depends a lot upon, what kind of dance routine, what is the intensity, what is the duration of that routine, which impacts the overall, how your blood sugar management is going to be. But just to, tell some practical tips that I follow. So before any dance session, any shoot or routine that I follow, ensure that you check your blood sugar, which is very, very important to know where you are at. and know your target range. So that if you're going higher, so you take your correction dose and you come back to your target range. And if you're going a little lower, then you take a snack, probably with some carbs and protein, so that your energy levels are sustained. And then you start with your exercise routine. It's very important that whenever you're going for a dance class or a shoot or anything, you always have your supplies with you, whether it is a glucometer, CGM, your technology stuff, and so that you're always well prepared. Whenever there's any physical activity that you're involved in, it's very important to be extra careful and cautious. Nothing is easy, nothing is a cakewalk until unless you know your things. So it's very important to educate yourself that how you need to do those insulin adjustments and how you need to carb count. And all of these are very important to help you easily navigate through your fitness journey, and as well as your community and the people that you do your exercise or physical activity with. They should also be educated so that whenever you have any hypoglycemic episodes, they are able to better support you and help you in case there's an emergency. And I would also say that it's important that you keep focus on your hydration levels. Hydration levels is important, that if you are well hydrated, then it really helps you with your intense workouts. And it also helps with the insulin sensitivity and ensures that you do not fall too high or too low during your exercises. And during the dance routine, I ensure that I check my blood sugars often. When I started 8 years back, I used to check my blood sugars 8 to 10 times a day. Luckily, now we have technology. I can just quickly use my CGM device and check my blood sugar, which is like advantage for people who are starting their journeys today. So make use of the technology, because it can really help you to make those little trial and errors in your journey. Everybody is different. We all have different journeys. We all have different experiences. Everybody reacts differently to different exercise routines. So it's important to see how your journey is looking like. And at the same time, I would advise you to, don't set unrealistic standards and goals for your fitness journey. Don't just start and say, I'm going to go run a marathon next month. That's not how it goes. Make smaller goals and achieve those goals that will give you more confidence, that will empower you and help you to kind of, see, how your body is reacting to those different intensity workouts and how you're able to manage your blood sugars well. So it's very important to set those target levels and goals accordingly, and ensure that you choose something that you can do at a longer interval of time. So it's important that it is sustainable. Whatever activity that you're starting with, you should enjoy that. That's the most important thing. Do not do it because of the sake of it, or do not do it. Of course, it's important for your health, but it's also important that how you feel. Because if it brings you happiness, of course, any kind of physical activity releases endorphins, serotonin, which are the mood elevators. So if it makes you happy, you would be motivated and encouraged to do that every day, and that it will become a habit in some time. So ensure that you follow that routine, and after any kind of physical activity, please focus more on your rest and recovery. It's important that you do warm up and cool downs, so that there's less muscle stiffness, and it also aids in your recovery, and it helps you to kind of relax and get ready for the next workout or next day of session. So that is very, very important. Make sure that you're well hydrated at all times. You eat a balanced meal with which has enough carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and you focus on your overall well-being of how you're feeling. Do not overdo anything. Just kind of listen to your body, which is very important. That's something that I often do. Sometimes, when I see others and I feel like, yeah, I have to do this today itself, and I spend 5 hours learning one dance routine, and then I end up getting a hypo, or I do not feel well, and I feel like I should listen to my body when it's giving me signs that I should rest. I should listen and take that very seriously. So these would be some practical tips that can really help you to start your fitness journey and really enjoy the whole process.
Very insightful and very important as well. I think what we said as well about taking it in steps, perhaps not just diving in. And I think in those steps as well, you kind of have your key lessons. Don't be put off by a high or low blood sugar or glucose level, because they're actually key things to then reflect on as well. When all is done with, you can reflect back on that and think, why did that happen? What could I alter a little bit from that last run or dance or basketball game or whatever it might be? And they're always valuable lessons to then make a slight adjustment to, or change that routine or carb approach that works for you. I'm mindful of the time a little bit. However, I would like to just quickly ask Edgar on the marathon side of that. The more after a marathon, Edgar, have you noticed any impact perhaps in the night time? You've been out there with a lot of endurance whilst running a marathon. Was there a crashing of the levels? How did you approach that? If Edgar's there.
I think that like while we're waiting for Edgar to come back because he had to just leave for a few seconds. Would it be okay to just mention the project that we are supposed to talk about as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to next question. So please do.
So maybe some of the people who are on the call have heard about the project because one of the partners actually is IDF, however, IDF Europe. And the project is called Sports and Diabetes. And in short, it's a project which aims to ensure the children who have diabetes do not stop playing sports the moment that they are diagnosed, just because they're diagnosed or because their parents are scared, or if the coaches are not sure whether they should actually coach a kid who has diabetes. So all of those reasons are actually the motivation behind the project, which was firstly came to mind to our dear friend Ines, who is also a mentor and the representative for Europe for the Young Leaders Program. But so she's from Croatia, which is why her club in Zagreb is the one that started this project. So it didn't come from patient organizations, it actually came from clubs. So it was clubs from 5 different countries, and the point of the project was to make kids who have diabetes, to encourage them to encourage this kind of social inclusion and equal opportunity in sport, where it would not just be kids learning more about their diabetes in sports, but also coaches and parents. And so the main output actually of this project and the main result is the handbook, which quickly educates all kinds of stakeholders that are involved. So it enables children to learn more about their diabetes, but it's also good for parents as well as coaches. And it's actually like a step-by-step guide or a tool for everyone who's interested in the topic of diabetes in sports. And of course, it's written in English. And for the kids version, it has like little comics, and kids can add their information about like their particular sports. So it's like a really good publication altogether, but it's also translated into many languages. So for now, on the website Sports and Diabetes, everyone can type that in on their web browser. It's translated into 6 languages, but it should be translated into many more. So right now it's in English, Croatian, German, Italian, Greek, Serbian, and Portuguese. And one of the aspects of this project was also a kids camp. And that was the part of the project which I was mostly involved in. And there were kids, doing all kinds of sports. And it was so interesting to learn and like to compare that to myself, because like the information that I had some 20 years ago and the information that they have today, the technology, the knowledge and everything, it's changed so much. They're so much better at, regulating their diabetes during certain physical activities, and like the knowledge about food and everything that Joe talked about earlier. I can just see how much that has changed. But again, it's not the same in every country. It's not the same in every sport as well, because still there are so many coaches who are afraid to coach kids who have diabetes, or there are still parents who are not so sure if their children should maybe be a pro athlete someday. So this kind of handbook is a really good guide into everything that a child with diabetes can do with regards to sport.
Amazing. Yeah. And I guess just quickly, is there going to be a link that you could potentially share, or how do people stay in the loop?
Yeah, I will do that right now.
And I'm a little bit mindful of the time, of course, but IDF don't mind if we go a couple of minutes over. I'm sure. Rob, I think there's a really important question to ask you as well on this. I'm going to try and tie two questions in one, because yeah, I think it's important that if you're a young person and you're not even a young person, any person starting in a professional team or even just in their college team or local team with sports, how would you approach sharing about having diabetes to the coaches, to the team managers, to the fellow players or people on your team? And aligned with that, my other question to you would have been, what would you share to a young person, particularly starting out in sports, to keep them encouraged in what they can do and what they can achieve?
I think the most important thing, and I was very lucky. My family and I decided to be very forthcoming and upfront about my diabetes with my coaches. I think sharing that information is important because you need more people to advocate for you. But we also shared with them that I was going to be okay, that just because I had diabetes didn't mean that I needed any other special treatment as part of the team, that I could help. I just would need to keep snacks around for my hypos, and I would need to build trust with my coaches that if I needed to come out, I could signal to do that. And we built a shared language for that, because I think that was important for them to learn. Jelisaveta mentioned the most coaches don't have experience coaching kids with diabetes, and you might be the first one, but I know that my coaches that I worked with have sent me messages over the years the next time they worked with someone with diabetes, and it allows the next person who comes in contact with that coach to be set up for success. And then I think for young people, you know, I want to kind of tie this into another topic that we've been talking about. Physical activity is just as important for your mental health as it is for your physical body. There's so much science about dopamine and about the good brain chemicals that come in after you get a workout and after you break a sweat. And especially today, when many of us are inside on computers, on screens a lot, it's very important for us to get outside and get moving. And a great way to do that is to get started and to find a sport that you love, and to find an activity that you love to do, and that you can do for a long time. I think that was something that I would try to go back and tell myself. I don't know that I would remember, but I'm 35, almost 36 now, and I still play basketball 3 times a week, and it's still a large part of my life. So you can have a long life with an activity, even if you make it to the highest level possible, or even if you don't. Falling in love with an activity and a sport can just give you balance in your life. And it takes effort, it takes commitment, but the lessons that you learn and the relationships that you build, and the stories that you can tell, really have given me so much more than what I put in. So I think if you love the game or you love the sport and you love the activity, so much will return to you than if you didn't do it. I've gotten so many things. I wouldn't be on this panel if it wasn't for playing basketball and deciding to do that and committing to that. And so that's what I mean is you never really know where that journey can take you if you're upfront about who you are and you make a plan and then you don't quit. And I think that's what I would tell a young person, is to get started, don't quit, and you never know where your life will lead you if you just follow that love for the game.
Yeah, really important message. I'm sure we will align with that as well. I got maybe if I can get away with a final question there. I know Bruno's like behind closed doors, like, Gavin, what are you doing? But I wanted to kind of, on this topic of movement, perhaps look at that question of those new to exercise, looking into a change of lifestyle, or looking for a new hobby to motivate them on their journey, whichever that might be. How to find that habit, build that habit, that level of empowerment, that encouragement to keep going, to keep trying new things, to also get out there and try to, perhaps away from exercise and movement, but also with the peer community that's out there, with people living with diabetes, and how you guys sharing how powerful that is for other people to hear from, as we touched upon earlier. So how to get involved with what's going on in their community, how to work as a community to encourage more movement and activity into the general world of lifestyle choices, and what benefits that brings. So yeah, I guess each of you, if you'd like to kind of have your take on that, and what you feel you could share as a message to encouraging people in trying things, getting active again, getting out there again, or even going into a new area, whether that's with the community, with peers, or in exercise and movement as well. I'm going to start with Jotsana to summarize on that. And then if Edgar's there, I'll go around that way. I'll go Joe, Edgar, Yelisveta, and I'll finish with Rob.
So I'll just quickly add, I think it's very important to start slow, gradually understand what kind of activity that you're really enjoying, and then increase the intensity and duration of that activity. Sometimes there could be days where you don't get time or you don't feel like doing, and that's absolutely normal. You don't have to pressurize yourself that, you know, every day you have to do. Of course, it is recommended to do 30 to 60 minutes of activity every day, but if on those days when you can't, just change your lifestyle or habits of, you know, for example, you're talking on the phone, then you can walk and talk on the phone. If you're having a meeting, then you can walk. Just don't take a car, take a metro. These are small little changes that you can do in your daily life, and that can really make a huge difference. For example, for myself, on days when I don't find time for a detailed dance workout, I just dance while I cook. And that is one simple thing, which sounds funny, but it works for me. It makes me happy. It helps me mentally and emotionally to get rid of all the emotions that I had during the day. So it's very important that you make this and this stronger. Mentally and emotionally, you should be stronger so that everything becomes a cakewalk and you're able to handle everything. Do not, you know, pressurize yourself. Do not compare your fitness journey with anyone else, because everyone have different lives. We all are having a different responsibility. So just try and make it a habit that you need to spend some time for yourself every day.
Thank you, Joe. Absolutely. Edgar, are you there? Might have got cut off. If no, I'll go to Yelisveta.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Joe said so much, you know, information already, but like, yeah, I think that like, in the beginning, it's always easy to find an excuse for like why you're not doing certain activities. But if you just push through the first, I don't know, like a week or two, I think it gets much easier, and also it kind of becomes a habit for yourself and for your body as well. And then you might even feel guilty if there's a day that you actually skip it. But like, yeah, try and make it as manageable for yourself as you can. So it doesn't always have to be like, you know, going to the gym or going to the swimming pool or, you know, going anywhere. It can also be exercises in your own home, of course, if you have enough space. But again, space is something that can be, you know, you really don't need a lot of space in order to have a good workout. And even if you think that you don't have that much time, for instance, if you're going to work and using public transport, so if you're not using your car, you can always opt out for a walk home, or for at least a partial walk home, depending, of course, on how long it takes to get home. But yeah.
Really great answers from our panelists today. I think it's so important that to remember a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. In order to finish, you have to get started. But, you know, tying everything back to basketball, because that's what I do. The best shooter, the best person who, you know, in shooting a 3-point basket only makes 4 out of 10. So they miss more than they make, but they keep doing it. And I think that mentality is so important for young people. There was a question in the chat about a 14-year-old who struggles to get up off the couch. I struggle to get up off the couch some days, but more days than not, I get up. And then when I get up, I take a step. And when I can take a step, I can go for a walk, or I can put my shoes on and I can go to the gym. Or I can go get a glass of water, or I can go get some sunshine on my face. And if I just do those things more often than not, if I just start more days than I stop, over a long period of time, I can win. No team in, you know, I know there's probably been football clubs that have made it through the premiership without losing. So I'm not a football expert, so because I'm American and we're dumb. But there's only been one team in the history of the National Football League in America that ever went undefeated. There's been no NBA teams that ever make it through the playoffs without losing. Everyone loses. It's what you do after you lose that really counts. And what you do after you have a bad day with diabetes that counts. Can you have a bad day and just say, you know what, that's all that is. I'm going to try better tomorrow. And if you can do that, the momentum that it'll give you in your life will pay off in dividends in diabetes or professional or personal or career. Because I have bad days for sure. And you know, but it's how you respond to those. So that's what I would tell you. If you're having a bad day, I've been there. Can we try a different thing tomorrow? And even if it doesn't work, am I willing to try again? That's what I would encourage you to do.
Absolutely amazing messages, and yeah, what an amazing panel of people inspiring in this world, around this world, in just being yourselves. And I think that's also an important message that you're sharing is that diabetes is not separate from you. It's a part of you, and you bring that into your movements. You bring that into your daily routines, into your sports and exercises and the passions you love. And the more you're doing those passions that you enjoy, that you love, then the more you feel kind of, I guess, interconnected. Diabetes becomes a little bit more okay with you to then work with and not so far against, which is an important message that I really feel that you guys are bringing forward there. Also to note, Crystal Palace are currently unbeaten in the Premier League, not lost a single game. The season hasn't started yet, that's why. We haven't played one game, but hopefully that can continue. That's my team. So yeah, closing remarks. So I guess if you guys at the IDF want to go to the next slide there, I guess. And yeah, we can kind of summarize where this will be going. The recording that we've got that you signed up to will be sent out in a few days' time. So do check those spam mails if they haven't come through just yet, or instantly. Give it a few days and then get in touch with the IDF on their email. Any other questions? Obviously, we had a lot of questions already to get through there. So apologies if you did send some questions in. Thanks for your comments, and they can still be sent on. So send that to the KiDS IDF email, as you can see there, kids@idf.org, and perhaps they can then be shared even directly to the panelists that you have interest with. And if you're interested, if you're a person with diabetes or involved in managing diabetes in different ways, caregivers, etc., as well, then look at this link here. Look at the QR code, and there might be areas of interest for you to engage further with the International Diabetes Federation. You can see the Blue Circles Voices group. That might be really powerful to be a part of. You've got the IDF members, different associations around the world, and of course the Young Leaders in Diabetes program as well. So these might be things for you to look up, explore, decide that you want to be more involved in the IDF Advocacy Academy area. So scan that code and go on further from there. So yeah, great topic. Olympics are starting, so hopefully this is a good time to also then encourage us further into new random sporting activities that you're gonna see on your TV screens at home or around your community soon as well. So make the most of that. Be empowered to get out there, try something new. I hope you've taken something from this panel from there. And there will be an open dialogue on physical activity. So that's coming up on August the 5th. Launch of the results of the International Diabetes Federation's global survey on diabetes-related educational policies and initiatives. So August is looking busy. My birthday's the day after that, so you can remember that one, August the 12th. And there's a webinar on how registries can help tackle the global diabetes burden. So that's next up in September. So stay tuned with the International Diabetes Federation. They'll confirm that date, but September is that next webinar. So there we are, and you can receive your newsletters as well. So thanks, guys. Sign that QR code for that. And also then upcoming is of course next year, big event. So if you are part of member associations, you are interested in this topic of diabetes or across the board of world diabetes care, then this is obviously a big event. The IDF World Diabetes Congress happens every 2 years. It's going to be happening maybe 2.5 years this time. It's going to be in the April season in Thailand, in Bangkok. So go and look at this QR code for more about that. You might potentially want to even send in your work, your abstracts for a potential opportunity to present or at least engage with that. So there's your registration info to come to that. The theme is the shape of the future of diabetes. And then, yeah, there's nothing further than a big thank you for your participation today, and especially to these amazing guys, these panelists here. It's been a pleasure to speak to you all. So take care, have a good night, afternoon, evening, breakfast, wherever you are in the world, and hope to catch you soon.